NOSFERATU movie summary. NOSFERATU is one of the most influential classic horror films in the history of cinema. It was released in 1922 and directed by F.W. Murnau, Friedrich Wilhelm Murnau, a German filmmaker known as one of the leading figures in the German Expressionism movement. The film is an unofficial adaptation of Bram Stoker's novel Dracula. Due to copyright issues, the names of the characters and some elements of the story have been changed, but the core of the story is still inspired by the novel. Production background. NOSFERATU was produced by a small German film company called Prana Film, founded by Albin Grau and Enrico Diekmann. Prana Film was founded specifically to produce films with occult and horror themes. And NOSFERATU was their first, and only, project. Grau, a producer and artist, had a deep interest in esotericism and the occult, which influenced the aesthetics and themes of the film. Grau originally intended to be a direct adaptation of Dracula, but since the rights to the novel were still held by Bram Stoker's family, they decided to change certain elements. The film's title was changed to NOSFERATU. Eine Symphonie des Grauens, NOSFERATU. A symphony of horror, and the names of the characters and the setting were modified. For example, Count Dracula became Count Orlik, and the setting was moved from England to Germany. The film used cinematic techniques that were very innovative for its time. Murnau used contrasting lighting, expressive shadows, and gloomy natural landscapes to create an atmosphere of fear and suspense. Synopsis. The story begins in the small town of Wisborg, Germany, where a real estate agent named Thomas Hutter, played by Gustav von Wangenheim, receives an assignment from his employer, Herr Nock, Alexander Granick, to go to Transylvania. Nock has received a letter from Count Orlik, Max Schreck, a mysterious nobleman who wants to buy property in Wisborg. Hutter leaves his wife, Ellen, Greta Schroeder, and makes a long journey to Orlok's castle. On the way, he hears warnings from the locals about NOSFERATU, but he ignores the warnings. Upon arriving at the castle, he meets Count Orlik, a creepy figure with an inhuman appearance, a thin body, pointed ears, long nails, and sharp teeth like a rat. When night falls, Hutter realizes that Orlik is not an ordinary human, but a vampire. Orlik signs the documents to buy a house in Wisborg, which happens to be close to Hutter's house. The next night, Hutter finds Orlik sucking his blood. Hutter is knocked unconscious, and when he regains consciousness, Orlik has already left for Wisborg with chests of earth from his castle, the soil that vampires need to survive. Meanwhile, Ellen begins to sense Orlok's evil presence, even though he is still far away. As Orlik arrives in Wisborg, a mysterious plague begins to spread, causing deaths throughout the city. The townspeople believe the plague was caused by the rats Orlick brought in his chests. The climax of the story occurs when Ellen learns that the only way to defeat the vampires is to sacrifice herself. She must lure Orlick until dawn, as sunlight is a vampire's greatest weakness. In a dramatic scene, Ellen manages to get Orlick to attack her, but he remains by her side until the sun rises. Orlick is eventually destroyed by the sunlight, while Ellen dies from blood loss. The cast: 1. Max Schreck as Count Orlick. Max Schreck gives a very impressive performance as Count Orlick, who has become an icon of vampires on the big screen. His frightening and expressive appearance made many viewers believe that he was really a vampire. 2. Gustav von Wangenheim as Thomas Hutter. Gustav plays the protagonist who witnesses Orlock's horror. His character is an adaptation of Jonathan Harker in Dracula. 3. Greta Schroeder as Ellen Hutter. Greta plays Hutter's wife, who is the main key in destroying Orlick. Her role reflects a great sacrifice to save many lives. 4. Alexander Granick as Herr Nock. Granick plays Hutter's employer, a real estate agent who has a mysterious connection to Orlick. This character is based on Renfield in the novel Dracula. 5. Georg H. Schnell as captain of the Impusa. Schnell plays the captain of the ship who unknowingly brings Orlick to Wisborg. 6. Ruth Landshoff as Annie, Ellen's best friend, minor role. Cinematic influences and innovations. NOSFERATU was one of the first films to explore the vampire theme on the big screen. The film is a milestone in the history of horror cinema, primarily due to several innovative elements. 1. German Expressionism. The film is one of the most famous examples of the German Expressionism movement. This style is characterized by the use of dramatic shadows, extreme lighting, and settings that reflect the psychology of the characters. These techniques create an atmosphere that is not only creepy but also artistic. 2. Utilization of real locations. Unlike most horror films of the time that used studio sets, Murnau utilized real locations in Germany and Slovakia for filming. This gave a realistic feel that made the horror in the film feel closer to reality. 3. Character design of Count Orlick. The character design of Count Orlick was very different from previous representations of vampires who were often depicted as glamorous creatures. Instead, Orlick was a creepy creature, almost like the living dead. His creepy appearance is still iconic to this day. 4. Shadow technique. One of the most famous scenes in the film is the shadow of Orlock's hand crawling on the wall, reflecting his death grip. This technique became a hallmark of the film and is often imitated in modern horror films. Copyright controversy. After the film was released, Bram Stoker's widow, Florence Stoker, sued Prana Film for copyright infringement. The court ruled in favor of Florence, and ordered all copies of the film Nosferatu to be destroyed. However, some copies were saved by fans of the film, which then allowed Nosferatu to exist to this day. Pop culture influence. 1. Modern vampire icon. Count Orlok is considered one of the most terrifying representations of a vampire in cinematic history. His character design has influenced the depiction of vampires across media, from film to video games. 2. Adaptations and parodies. Nosferatu has been adapted and parodied in various forms. One of the most famous adaptations is Werner Herzog's Nosferatu the Vampire, 1979, which is a direct homage to the original film. 3. References in pop culture. The character of Count Orlok has appeared frequently in works of popular culture, including animated series such as SpongeBob SquarePants in the episode Graveyard Shift. Conclusion. Nosferatu is a masterpiece that combines visual art with horror, creating a cinematic experience that remains relevant almost a century after its release. The film not only pioneered the horror genre but also demonstrated how cinema could be used to explore dark and complex themes. Despite facing various challenges, including copyright issues, Nosferatu lives on as one of the most influential films in history.